It's prospect tournament time. Today, we'll talk about the standout performances, one surprise forward, and the player who is missing in action.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off our week shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and Friends. I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host for the Hockey News.
The Nashville Predators prospects are in Florida at the tournament so far. They have won both their games. They have one more game to go today. On our show today, we are going to break down their wins over Tampa Bay and Carolina. We are going to share some players who could make training camp very interesting and talk about some under the radar standouts. All right, Emma. Prospect tournament time. It's just like the appetizer to the main event. But here's something we need to talk about. We're going to talk today about the prospect tournament. We're going to talk about some of these prospects who stood out, somebody who surprised us. We're going to talk about who is not playing in the prospect tournament. That's a whole thing. But here is what I want to say on the front end of this whole conversation. And that is, it's kind of hard to know what to take away from this prospect tournament. So you kind of have to keep it in context, because we are all so hockey starved. We're like, what does this mean? It's kind of hard to know how much anything means at the prospect tournament. So we kind of got to keep it in perspective.
Yeah, that's true. Especially, I think, when it comes to the games, the actual games, because if you look at just farm system rankings in general, Nashville should be beating the pants off of all three of these teams when it comes to prospects. So, like, I don't mean to take anything away from them when, they win and, like, say that it doesn't count or it doesn't matter. But it's like, yeah, that should be happening. Just if you look at the strength of the pipelines of all four of these teams that are competing in this tournament. So it's like, it's good. Like, it's definitely a good thing. It would be concerning if, they looked severely outmatched by these other teams' prospects. But it's also like, okay, this is like par for the course. This is what should be happening.
Right. And also, you have to remember, these players are all coming in from different systems, different levels of play. They had, count it with me, friends, one practice with Carl Taylor. So it's a little hard to implement systems and all that kind of stuff. So it's very free flowing, these games, if you watch them. So really what you look for are moments. You look for individual plays. It's almost like you don't look at the big picture. You have to look at kind of small moments, small plays. And those are kind of where you get your takeaways. And I think for me, Emma, one of the biggest takeaways was the player who stood out. And I don't think anybody should be terribly surprised by this. But so far in this tournament, for me, Joakim Kemmel has looked really good. Really good. And I think that that's helpful going into training camp, because while we saw him very briefly in the NHL, we didn't really know what the takeaway was. And while his performance at the prospect tournament isn't going to jettison him to the top line of the Nashville Predators opening night roster by any stretch of the imagination, it does give you a couple more clues about where he is at in his development. And that's helpful.
It is. I don't mean to be the Debbie Downer here, but I will just say the other side of that coin is that it's like, I've seen this before. I've seen this movie before. Now this was 2 years ago now that I saw him when I was at the tournament in Florida and he was playing in it. So granted, at that time, it was not expected that he would be making the NHL roster the next season, so that was fine. But I remember thinking during that tournament, man, this kid looks good. Like, he is just head and shoulders above everyone else. He looks great. And then he was fine. Like, he was fine.
Yes.
And
Right.
so I do kind of tend to not read too much into the, the rookie tournament performances, but I do agree with you considering this time around he is closer to, when he would be theoretically on the NHL roster, so it is good to see that you're at least, seeing some kind of development there.
Yeah, and again, we're measuring just micro doses from these tournaments. So I'm certainly not saying that because Joakim Kemmel played really well against the prospects in Tampa Bay and Carolina, it's time to put him on the opening night roster. I do think it's helpful to see a little bit more of his body of work. When it will really be helpful, when we will really have some idea of where he is at training camp, because playing very well in the prospect tournament is really helpful, but you have to be able to play at a high level against NHL players, and that's going to happen in training camp. So it's great. I agree with you. I think he is playing where we expect him to play. I think he is the player that we expect to stand out for the Nashville Predators. I thought he had a great goal, a power play goal, very Steven Stamkos-esque shot. But I thought his puck handling was good. I think he's seeing the game well. Again, you have to see how does that translate at the next level against the NHLers. I did like the lines that he was on, though. I'm here for some of these lines. He played with Brady Martin, and then he played with David Edstrom. And Matthew Wood was another one that he played with. And Reid Schaefer. So they really gave him some fun line mates to look at. I agree with you. Like, we don't need to knight him. We don't need to like name a holiday after him, but I do think that it shows that okay, you're in a good place to go into training camp, and then what are we going to see? I thought it was interesting. Carl Taylor talked about Joakim Kemmel after these 2 games that he played, and he said, Kimmy is ready for that next opportunity, whatever that means, whether that's an elite player in the American League or it's a player in the National Hockey League. He's been with us for a while. He's trying to show that he's ready for that next opportunity. And I think he did that to the best of his ability in the prospect tournament. Coming up, Emma and I are going to talk about one of the forwards who has made a really good impression at this prospect tournament, and it's probably not who you think it is. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. So how can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you are in that spot where you need the right hire, you know the pressure's on, and every day without the right person feels like a setback. That is exactly when Indeed's sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, Emma talked about Joakim Kemmel. I think Brady Martin looked really good. Interestingly enough, and you touched on this earlier in the show, he is the highest picked player in the entire tournament at number 5. So kind of, like what you were saying, I thought Brady Martin looked good. There were some other players that we can talk about a little bit later on, but let's talk about the one that we didn't think we were going to talk about. And here we are talking about him. And if you watch the show, you're going to know that we're delighted because we are hashtag never enough Wiseblatts. And that is Oasis Wiseblatt. I got to tell you, I did not have him on my bingo card of players that we needed to talk about at this tournament. No disrespect meant, but he has been a whole thing at this tournament. Oasis Wiseblatt has.
He has. And I keep getting like that little jump scare doing that little double take at first whenever I see the Wiseblatt on the jersey, that I'm like, wait a minute, what's Ozzy doing there? And it's like, nope,
Yes.
different Wiseblatt. But yes, he has been all over this tournament. He went viral over the weekend for his little shootout goal, and he was letting the Canes bench know about it. So yeah, like I think what I can say is, like, I don't know what this means for the Predators. Obviously, he is signed to an AHL contract right now.
Mhm.
But what I can say with absolute certainty is that Milwaukee will love him.
Oh,
They will
yeah.
love him at Milwaukee. Like the fans,
Yes.
the organization, like he will become an instant classic there for sure.
Yes, I 100% agree. And he will be somebody that I think catches your eye at training camp. And again, hear what we're not saying. I don't think Oasis Wiseblatt is going to be playing on the wing off Ryan O'Reilly. But he came into this tournament, as the other Wiseblatt brother. Let's just be honest.
The
And made a
white
name.
meat, yes.
Yeah. He
Like,
just made a name for himself playing spicy, but also playing smart. And it's
yeah.
great when you can see somebody do both of those things.
Yeah, because I mean, you look at Ozzy, obviously Ozzy has more pedigree. He was a former first round pick. Oasis was undrafted.
Mhm.
He, ended up kind of like you said, making a name for himself. The last few years in junior, he had been playing in Medicine Hat with one Tanner Molendyk, who we will get to in a little bit. But then that's been a really good team that's gone really far in the
Mhm.
playoffs. He's been able to showcase more of what he can bring, and obviously caught the eye of the Milwaukee organization that they signed him to a 3-year AHL deal. So yeah, I mean, I do like those kind of undrafted guys that they go maybe a little bit more of a circuitous route to get to where they get to, but it's now, like you said, hear what we're not saying. I don't think that he's going to be some like hidden superstar. I think we kind of like his ceiling is what it is, but I do think that he'll be a fun player to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Here is what I'm really looking forward to when it comes to Oasis Wiseblatt in training camp. Like I said, I don't think he's going to go into training camp and vie for a start on the opening night roster. But Oasis Wiseblatt is going to make the people who are freaking earn it. And you need those players at your training camp. You need those players who have no off button, who have no, like, I'm not going to make the roster, so I'm going to coast. Like, this kid has no off button. He is 100% all of the time. But like I said, I love that he plays smart. I thought he had some really good defensive plays. Offensively, he has been a little bit of everywhere. And also, and I know this seems pretty weird coming from a podcast that gets real tired of people talking about UC Saros, but Oasis Wiseblatt is not necessarily a power forward. He's 5'9", under 200 pounds, but he plays a very big game. And so I am really looking forward to seeing him at training camp, not because I'm like, oh, he's going to vie for a job, but because anybody who gets on that roster is going to have to get on that roster playing against Oasis Wiseblatt, and they are going to be better for it. And I love those guys.
I do too. I also like part of me is fascinated by this whole dynamic as an only child. I find this whole sibling dynamic thing fascinating, but I wonder if there's something to it, that like sibling rivalry of like being at camp with his brother, that'll like
Yes.
unlock another level in either of them, like
Mhm.
kind of to turn it up a notch. And I mean, even we talked to the O'Reilly brothers last year, and goodness knows they've been doing this a lot longer than the Wiseblatt brothers have, and they still get like really fired up and kind of, get chippy with each other and things like that. So I think that'll be a fun dynamic to see too.
I'm very nervous about it. I would be lying if I said otherwise. As the mother whose sons took martial arts and faced off in a sparring class against each other when they were much younger, and both of them ended up crying and pummeling the poo out of each other, and I had to say to the instructor, "I need you to not ever have them spar each other." It can turn on a dime, friends. It was very traumatic. So I'm like, please, Ozzy and Oasis, I need you to play hard, play your heart out, but like, don't fight.
And don't pummel the poo out of each other.
Don't pummel the poo. Oh my gosh. I mean, literally, I'm gonna have this flashback on my deathbed because it was so traumatic watching these two boys just go at each other. And I'm like, I have to take them both home. Knock that off. So
Well,
Wiseblatt brothers, don't do
the good
that.
thing is in training camp, typically the groups are divided such that that it could be that they don't actually spend that much time around each other. And by the time Oasis will be in the first round of cuts just because
Mhm.
he's got to go to AHL camp. So we can, get a little bit of separation there. But
Choose wisely, Andrew Brunette. I'm just telling you, their mother does not need that. She does not need
it's
that
true.
kind of stress. Mm-mm.
No.
Coming up, there's a couple other players we need to talk about, and then we have to talk about the player who we have not seen. Where is Tanner Molendyk? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You're going to love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's those player props, building a same game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game a little bit more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting fanduel.com to get started. That's fanduel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Emma, this is a player that I think we'll probably talk about a little bit more in depth the closer that we get to and go through training camp. But I'm just curious what your impressions were of Reid Schaefer, who is a player that we have not seen on the ice for quite a while. Missed a lot of the AHL season with injury. He is back. He is healthy. What did you see from Reid Schaefer?
I think he is, I haven't seen anything just jaw-dropping, quite frankly, but I don't say that negatively. I don't
Mhm.
mean that as a criticism. It's just kinda like, he was fine. I mean, he didn't stand out to me in a bad way either.
Right.
He was there. I'm rooting for him to have a full season after this injury because I really do wanna see what he can bring. Obviously, another guy with a lot of pedigree as a former first-round pick with Edmonton.
Mhm.
I really like his size, his physicality. I think he can be like power forward-esque. Um, but I think we need to kind of see that from him.
Mhm.
So I don't know. My initial impression is that I don't have enough to go off of for an initial impression, if that makes any sense at all. It's kind of a cop out, I guess, but it's like I
Totally
really
fair.
he's a kid that I have been rooting for. Like I want him to do well. I want him to have a full season after this injury he had last year.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you have a player who has missed a chunk of a season with injury because there is a process mentally to getting back to the ice as well. And in some ways, there can be a hesitation or kind of an adjustment to getting back into playing a game that is as physical as Schaefer can sometimes play. But there's also that hunger, like, I haven't been able to do this for so long. So I think it's going to be very interesting to watch Schaefer, especially in training camp, and see how that manifests for him as he tries to get back and get through a full season healthy. I do want to shout out one very under the radar player that you're not going to see in Nashville. But I thought TJ Septemfelter in net was really good. I thought he had a great game. He was under some pressure in the first half of the Carolina game, but I really liked what we saw from him. And here's what I'm going to say, Emma. Since the hockey gods / Barry Trotz took the patron saint of the Locked On Predators, New Jersey native Mark Del Gaizo from us, I do appreciate that we have TJ, who also is a New Jersey player. But this is somebody who is going to be in the AHL. We're not going to see him in Nashville, barring something really like that makes last year look like a picnic. But I loved what we saw from him. I really appreciated his game. I appreciated how well he was tracking, how he did under pressure, how he moved. So I just wanted to shout out somebody that, again, probably not going to get a ton of ice time, not a ton of podcast time, but I really liked his game.
It's almost like Nashville organization knows what they're doing when it comes to identifying goaltending talent.
I mean, I've heard some things. I have heard some things. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the elephant that's not in the room or on the ice. And if you have watched these first two games, you will have noticed Tanner Molendyk not on the ice. He was at practice last week. And as they were practicing, and I will be honest with you, I did not see this happen in real time myself. He was doing drills with Andrew Gibson. You know, I love that pairing. But then all of a sudden, Tanner Molendyk not on the ice and looked like maybe he had kind of a funky hit along the boards, came off the ice, and we have not seen him at the tournament. What is your concern level about what that means for Tanner Molendyk and the Nashville Predators when it comes to training camp?
I don't really know. I think that given who we're talking about here, and obviously this is a top prospect, someone who was, will probably make his NHL debut at some point this year, but could potentially even crack the opening night roster. It could be, and again, I'm not saying it probably is because I genuinely don't know, but it could be like, this isn't worth it. It's not worth it. We know what he can do. We don't need to see him play against these prospects from Carolina and Tampa and Florida to know what he can do. We would rather not risk injuring him further in these games so that he will be 100% for training camp. So that could be it. It also could be he's actually hurt and he's hurt, so he's not playing. I mean, that's the thing. We really don't know. And I think if it is the former, I think the Predators are doing the right thing with him by not just like, again, this is not a kid who has anything to prove at this rookie tournament. I think he has things to prove at training camp, potentially, but not at the rookie tournament. So I just don't know that it would be worth it. So that's kind of my operating theory. But again, just pure speculation.
Yeah. I am thinking that may be the situation as well. But again, we're just purely speculating. There's been no word from the team as to what happened with Molendyk and what his injury status is or isn't. Whether he will play in today's game, we don't know that either. So just sort of waiting to see what happens. But I would hate to see this be something that keeps him from training camp, because I do think this is a training camp where you want to see him, especially because you've got Nick Perbix and Nick Hague that you have brought into the organization, which gives a buffer. You don't have to have Tanner Molendyk out of the gate, but it would be great to see them all on the ice together as you're trying to piece together the defense. So something of note, something worth keeping your eye on, whether he plays in today's game or not. This is going to be a player that we're going to be talking about at training camp, and hopefully we'll get to see him on the ice at camp. So as we hear things, of course, we will let you know the updates on Tanner Molendyk as well. Emma, we got a game today. Last game is today. It is against the Florida Panthers prospects. It's at 11 o'clock Central Time and streamed on NashvillePredators.com if you want to get your last peek at the prospects at this tournament before they head back home. And then later this week, we kick off training camp. Does this mean we can be done with last season? Does this mean, Emma, for the love, can we be done?
I hope so. I mean, we still got to make sure that they have a good start to this season. So we're still not out of the woods yet, I don't think. I think that this is going to be just the shadow, the rain cloud that follows us around until they unwrite that chapter of their story. Hopefully, please God, hopefully they unwrite it or rewrite it.
Unrighted. Yes.
Um don't keep writing it, please. I don't think we can take it anymore.
Control Alt
But yeah,
delete that.
yeah,
Control Alt delete that. No,
yeah.
no more. But yeah, right around the corner later this week, training camp kicks off down at Ford Ice Center, Bellevue. So we will get you prepared this week for training camp. We've, of course, still following as of the time of this recording the Luke Evangelista contract saga. As soon as we get any resolution on that, of course, Emma and I will bring you that news as well. Before we wrap up on this Monday, Emma, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks again so much for making us your first listen of the day. We hope you go out and have an amazing Monday. We'll see you tomorrow with an all new episode.